ஏதன் கண்ணே நிலையாகி இருந்திடுவே உலகமெல்லாம் எதனின்று அனைத்துலகும் எழும்போ மற்றிவையாகும் எதன் பொருட்டாம் எதனாலே வையமெல்லாம் எழுந்திடும் எல்லாமும் எதுவே ஆகும் அதுதானே உலகொருளாம் சத்தியமாம் பச்சொருவம் அகத்தில் வைப்போம் இதயமாம் குகையினாப்பண் ஏகமாம் பிரம்மம் மாத்திரம் அது அகமகமாய் வேறே அவிர்ந்திடும் ஆன்மாவாக இதயமே சார்வாய் தன்னை எண்ணி ஆள் அல்லது வாயு அதனுடன் ஆழ்வனத்தால் ஆன்மாவின் நிஷ்டனாவாய் இதயமாம் குகையினாப்பண் ஏகமாம் பிரம்மம் மாத்திரம் அது அகமகமாய் நேரே அவிர்ந்திடும் ஆன்மாவாக இதயமே சார்வாய் தன்னை எண்ணி ஆள் அல்லது வாயு அதனுடன் ஆழ்வனத்தால் ஆன்மாவில் நிஷ்டனாவாய். By Bhagavan's grace, we have come to Bhagavan's teachings of the Atma Swarupam. We have seen two verses of the one who knows the mind or one who is the light that reveals everything. In both cases, the Guru says that is you. So that is the Atma. But from those two verses, we are moving on to Bhagavan's teaching of Atma Swarupam. That is Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. That Ekashloki of Bhagavan is what we are coming to now. Before we embark on that, a brief look at a small video I had forwarded while discussing the witness states. We can look at the earlier two shlokas as some form of unaffected witness of thoughts and objects or unaffected witness of the light or akasha or space between objects, the screen, unaffected witness of the screen. Now for that there is a common doubt presented on our behalf. The questioner asks this question on our behalf as to how Bhagavan's teaching of Kevalam Brahma Matram Adu Aham Ahamai Nere Avirdidum Anmavaha Aham Aham Niti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati, how beneficial it is to the sadhaka. It is brought to light by that question. The questioner asks, the addressed Guru is Sarvapriyananda ji. There the questioner asks, I am able to witness thoughts during the waking state, and I am even able to witness the thought-free consciousness. Now, does that mean that I am the witnessing consciousness which is mentioned in the Ekashloki? Moreover, then why I am not able to witness deep sleep. I am able to do this witnessing in the waking state, and I am even able to witness the thought-free consciousness. The question is, am I the witnessing consciousness? Then if I am that, why I am not able to witness deep sleep? This is the question, and the Guruji promptly identifies it as a good question, which is applicable not only to the questioner but to all. So in that context, I am presenting the question, which refers to those two verses. So the answer given by the Guruji, and quite appropriately so, is that whenever there is a I am seeing and I am practicing the witness, then there is a starting point for the practice. Therefore, there will be an end point. Therefore, it should be taken that still the ego and the mind are only witnessing part of the mind. Whereas the witnessing consciousness will not have such thoughts that I am witnessing, I have begun witnessing in waking state, why I am not witnessing in deep sleep, as though deep sleep is somewhere away. These thoughts will not be there if you are the witnessing consciousness, which was there before you started the practice, during the practice, and after the practice, which was there before creation, during creation, and after creation. So you are merely joining that. Till such time, you should continue the practice. So what it brings to light is that still the doubter and the doubt remain in some clear way, though witnessing is seen to happen, though the unaffected nature towards those particular thoughts and the unaffected witnessing of the sky, the Chitakasha, is apparently there on the part of the sadhaka, but still the ego is not eliminated, so still the effort maker is there. It is not samadhi sthiti, which Bhagavan states, or it is not the witnessing consciousness as Ishvara is before creation, during creation, and after creation. So that doubt remains wherever the witnessing nature is there of either the thought or the space between thoughts, the akasham. So in Bhagavan's teaching of Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham Ahamiti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati, if any doubt arises, forget about this doubt. You have to ask for whom is this doubt. That means the Anatma, clearly the sadhaka himself is aware. There is no asking it of somebody else, that if there is a doubt, you have to ask. Till the doubter is eliminated completely, self-inquiry will not leave. So that is the clear benefit that I experience in implementing Bhagavan's teachings, because as I shared with you, I have indeed practiced the witnessing somewhat. So I should not say anything about from where I have learned. It's only that the way in which we see and implement it, and who am I came and the doubts got cleared. But we are moving on to Bhagavan's teachings, where this Sakshi, either of the thought or of the Akasha, is not there. Bhagavan will always clearly ask, who is the witness? The witnessed, the act of witnessing, and the one who is witnessing, all the three have to merge in the self. So, having given that introduction to what we are moving to, the verses 8, 9, 10 and 11, these concern Bhagavan's teachings about the direct inquiry into the ego and its source. So we go into the verse proper. The verse meaning given by Sadhuvam Swamigal. The verse, of course, is Idayamam Guhayinapan. In the center of the cave, which is the heart. In the center of the cave, which is the heart, the one non-dual Brahman, Idayamam Guhayinapan, Ekamam Brahma Matram. That Ekam, Sadhuvam Swamigal uses the word one and non-dual Brahman, which both words. Ekamam Brahmam Matram Kevalam. That Kevalam is very important because that alone is there, says Bhagavan. Kevalam Brahmam Matram Adu Aham Ahamayinere. So here Bhagavan clearly brings us to the Atma. It is not the witness of the object, it is not the witness of the space, it is I. Adu Aham Ahamayinere. That means in the center of the cave, which is the heart, the one non-dual Brahman alone shines directly in the form of the self as I or I am I. Here the truth is delineated. How the truth is delineated? In the center of the cave, the Brahman alone shines directly as the self, as I. Now the sadhana is mentioned in the next two lines. Idayamam guhainapat ekamam brahma matram adu aham ahamainere avirndidum anmavaha. Idayame sarvai. So seek and abide in the heart. Idayame sarvai tannai enni aal. Hold the I, leave the non-I and sink. Hold the I and sink. Tannai enni aal aladu or vayu adanudan aalmanattal. Along with the breath, you sink into the source. Vayu adanudan aalmanattal. Along with the breath, enter the heart by the mind sinking, scrutinizing the self, or by the mind sinking along with the breath, and be one who abides in the self. Anma will nishthanavai. So it is not even a single comma or full stop or difference is there between the Sanskrit and Tamil. With all the pun requirements, with all the poetic requirements, it is probably only Bhagavan who could do such translations that exactly matches the original word for word, meaning for meaning. I can't see any difference. That's practically impossible for a poet. So just a brief look at the contents again. The first part is about the truth. Idayamam guhainapad ekamam brahma matram adaham ahamainere avirndidum anmavaha. Idayame sarvai tannai enniyaal aladu vayu adanudan aalmanattal anmavil nishthanavai. So we go into Lakshman Sharmaji's clarification. To begin with, if necessary, we will spill this over into another week, but that's later if we are not able to cover. We first look at Lakshman Sharmaji's commentary to take a beautiful benefit that he is giving. What he is giving is that the awareness I is a ray from the Supreme. Is a ray from the Supreme. And what Bhagavan is asking us to hold this I and free yourself, trailing the I, free yourself from the body-mind complex. And when your attention traces the I, it automatically goes to the Hridayam, which is the source of the I. So there the ego perishes and the Brahman alone is experienced. So the beautiful support he gives is the reason why Bhagavan is asking us to hold the I. Because all the other things are revealed by the I, whereas I itself is directly a spark, a ray of light emanating from the limitless Supreme Self. So Bhagavan says in Aksharamanammalai, Nyamaliyil Keda Nanen Urudiyai Nadi Nil Uruven Arunachala. How am I going to find your Swarupa, O Arunachala? Now, am I worse than a dog? If a dog can use its smell and trace its way back to its owner or the home, real home, will I be any less? Your fragrance is present in me as the I feeling, nanu, which integrates the false association with the body and the false association with the mind and assumes it to be real, and any loss of it or any ending of any part of it is suffered. Whereas what is exactly that I is not the one trapped in the body. Lakshman Sharma says that I is actually a fragment, a ray of light emanating from the Supreme. And the Supreme is ever present there. What is the sadhana Bhagavan is giving? Trace that light back to its source. And one of the devotees, youngster who comes to Bhagavan, he pesters Bhagavan, at least that's how it is written, for so many things from the morning, and then Bhagavan just said, Vanda valiye thirumbi po. And he tells it with a smile or a laugh and goes off. And that person becomes deeply depressed. He says to others, but Bhagavan goes for his walk or something, and he says to others, I have come this far, and he's asking me to go back to my hometown, taking the same bus I came. Then the senior devotees there, they say, no, it's not meant like that you are really blessed to get this supreme teaching. Bhagavan is asking you to retrace your I thought to its source. How to retrace that? We will see. Now, the sadhana prescribed by Bhagavan, as delineated by Sharmaji, Lakshman Sharmaji, is that there are two sadhanas. Both Sharmaji and Kanakamad are agreed on this. Some writers say 3 sadhanas, some writers say 2 sadhanas. Lot of detailed discussion about this threadbare has been provided in one of the booklets by Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning called Ekashloki itself. So those who are interested in knowing further about this, you can go into that. Now, it would suffice for us to understand that there are 2 primary paths delineated. One is what we call as Atma Vicharam, which is whenever a thought arises, which is the not I thought, let it go by asking for whom is this thought. The I thought is available for inquiry. Now hold it or take it to your source, take it to its source by asking, who am I? This is to be repeated till all the enemies in the fortress called vasanas are eliminated. Now that is one part. The other path is Vayu Adanudan Almanatal Anmavil Nishtanavai. That means Bhagavan gives us one other support other than directly holding the I thought. He gives us the support of Vayu. Now we can take it as, if you can think as Vensamai directly, the Vayu also will automatically go to the source, because in Upadesha Saram Bhagavan says both the breath and the mind have the same source, the self. So when the breath is taken to the source, the mind goes to a laya kind of state by going towards the source. When the mind is taken to the source, definitely the breath is taken to the source. Now, I have narrated one incident where a great yogi, he says to the breath, come let us go, and he parts from the body from the Sahasrara. But we can understand in Bhagavan's teaching of Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham iti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati. Whatever happens, that let it be according to Ishvara Ajna. But the sadhana given is not to wait for that, but to take the breath and the mind to the source, the heart, here and now. The direction is like this, not like this, going out to some other place. So right now Bhagavan is teaching us the art of something which is very beautiful. says that you need not fear where you are going to go. As Bhagavan was saying, when others would narrate in his presence that Bhagavan's sarcoma has developed too much and Bhagavan is going to leave us, having heard this, Bhagavan says, where can I go? Where can I go? I am here. I am here. That is his statement, and that is where he takes us. In sadhana, he wants us to go nowhere else. He wants both the mind, which is the source of the place where we will be going, taking another form or whatever, and the breath. Doesn't want to go anywhere there. He wants both to go to the source and abide there. Atmanishto bhavatvam. But that much of that we can see as we go down. The sadhana definitely is where the breath is mentioned. Breath is a support. But ultimately the mind has to become subtle enough to take the breath to its source, to the Atma. Not depend on the support itself. So, what is the way in which breath is held? Traditionally they say the kumbhaka. The retention of the breath, the incoming breath, when it has reached the inward point, obviously the incoming breath only can go to the source. One has to hold the breath there, and that helps still the mind. That is the usual kumbhaka practice. The puraka, rechaka, kumbhaka, the outward flow of breath, the inward flow of breath. The inward flow of breath as a turning point, where these are limited activities. As Guru Nanak Ji says, our life itself is only the length of one breath. So at the end of outgrowing breath, you should say one japa. At the end of incoming breath, you should say one nama. Like that, he teaches that our life is not even for 24 hours. Our life is only the length of one breath. Therefore, at the end, where the outward breath meets shunya, that point is called as shunya, because there is no further support. Fortunately, oxygen has been provided by God in the outside area, so we are able to take the incoming breath meaningfully and sustain life in the body. The incoming breath also has a limit, that is the kumbhaka, and at that point it turns and comes out. The practice is usually in kumbhaka, you hold, then the mind is also still. But Bhagavan says, you observe the breath, that's enough. That means, if you observe the whole process of puraka, rechaka, kumbhaka and shunya, and just observe it without like or dislike, what happens if you recall verse number 6? You get a witnessing nature of the breath, and that automatically brings the mind to laya. And in Upadesha Saram, Bhagavan says, start practicing Atma Vicharam from there. So, Sadhuvan Swamigal, Lakshman Sharma Ji and Kanakamad are agreed that there are only two paths shown by Bhagavan, that of Chinvata and Majjata. Ganapati Muni Ji says there are three, but he beautifully clarifies that actually there is only one. Actually there is only sinking towards the self. So there are no controversies here. In fact, when the Atmanishta Bhavatvam is there, there is no one, there is no two, there is no three. So in Bhagavan, all the paths get absorbed. As they say, that you cannot trace the path of the flight of a bird or the path of the swimming of a fish. You cannot trace it from where it has come. It all merges back into that. Similar is the one who is abiding in the self. Whatever the life is not his. To him, nobody's life is theirs. There is only the self. So that is the meaning of the verse, that either by holding the I directly or by sinking in, taking the help of a sinking breath, Armanata Anmavil Nishtanavai, the abiding in the self. So this covers the nature of reality and the sadhana. Since we have covered the sadhana extensively in Ulladanakudu, I am leaving it for the later segment in Anubandham also, where we will be discussing that. Now, we come to the discussion of the verse word by word, where one of the main concepts is the Hridayam. The Hridayam is introduced here. What is the Hridayam in Ulladu Narpadu? உள்ளதல உள்ள உணர் உள்ளதோ உள்ள பொருள் உள்ளலற உள்ளத்தே உள்ளதால் உள்ளமெனும் உள்ள பொருள் உள்ளலவன் உள்ளத்தே உள்ளபடி உள்ளதே உள்ள. There one of the ullams is Hridayam and one of the ullade is thought free consciousness. That means the Hridayam Hridyakaha, that is can someone chant the first shloka from Ulladu Narpadu for me?
Satpratyaya kinnu vihaya santam hriddesha chintarahito hridakyah katham smaramastamameyamekam tasya smritistatra dridhaiva nishtha.
So, Satpratyayatimnu vihaya santam hridyesha chintarahito hridakyah. So there, this play of Ulladu is not there. So it becomes the words become very clear there that hridyesha chintarahito hridakyah. So the Satvastu is in the heart as Chintarahito, the thought-free consciousness, and itself is called as the Hridayam, Hridyakyaha. That means the same Satvastu, which is the thought-free consciousness, is called as the heart. Now, this heart is often used by Bhagavan, and it has connotations, as we had seen in the question answers during the week, that we see a lot of reference to this heart. Principally in two ways. One is the physical reference and one is the source of the I thought. The physical reference is 2 fingers to the right side of the center of the chest. There is a feeling of this Purana, the I. That is where the questioner is asking from a bodily perspective. Bhagavan will say it is to the right side of the chest. Definitely it is a Dhyana Lakshya. But Bhagavan would say that as far as Atmavicharam is concerned, the Hridayam should be taken as the source of the I thought. Now we are going to get to some later verses in Anubandham where Rama asks Vasishtha Muni as to what is Hridayam, and about 3 verses are spent on that. So I am not going to delineate those parts. I am leaving that discussion for the discussion between Sri Rama and Vasishtha Muni. 3 shlokas are there about Hridayam itself in Anubandham. So just to kindle our interest in that verse, it is said that Hridayam is the source of all the wealth. Whatever wealth you may be seeking, wealth of knowledge or the sthula wealth, everything, heart is the source. It is the source of all the nadis. Where do the Ida, Pingala and Sushumna, where does the Sushumna Paraline? He says in the talks that the Sushumna also goes through the Paranadi and goes to the Hridayam and becomes Leena there. The Sushumna goes up to Sahasrara, then the Paranadi connects the Sahasrara and the Hridayam, and finally the resting point of all the nadis or the source of all the nadis is only the Hridayam. The source of all the chakras is also the Hridayam. Sahasrara chakra is supposed to draw its light from the Hridayam. The Hridayam is the sun and the Sahasrara chakra is the moon. And there is a dialogue between Ganapati Muni and Bhagavan, where Ganapati Muni holds temporarily for dialogue purposes. What do we know about these things? It is presented and the print media is so limited, so we need not be judgmental. That there was this dialogue for our benefit, that Ganapati Muni for a moment at least holds that the Sahasrara is the seat of all the vasanas then Bhagavan says, if that were to be the seed, then if the head is cut, that person will get mukti. It is much more deeper, he says. Bhagavan says, the brain and the Sahasrara are not the seed. The seed is only in the Hridayam. And the Sahasrara gets its light from the Hridayam, says Bhagavan. Now, from the two earlier verses, we can now see that the witness nature of the objects and the witness nature of the space also originate from the Hridayam, because Hridayam is said to be the place where there is no ego, whereas there can be a witness, there can be an Ishvara nature of individuality. Strangely, Buddhism, which says about witness nature, tries to say that individuality goes off much earlier. But we find in practice that, of course, there is teaching that you have to transcend that witness nature also. So it's no condemnation of their path, which is beautiful in itself. But the witness has this problem that, as Sarvapriyanandaji points out, that are you the witness or are you mistaking freedom from some thoughts as freedom from everything? So that danger is there. Therefore, even that place when we come, which is what I did, when I could witness the thought-free state, who am I, what I did, it made me ask, who is witnessing the blank? It did not allow me to stop there. Who is witnessing the blank? That finished off those areas, and there was complete understanding of whatever the sources I was trying to check out. Now, therefore, we can take that the source of the witness of thoughts, I will try to recall for our benefit, what do I mean by witness? The attention that is free of like and dislike. That when the attention, you just look at a past thought. Let us for a moment look at a past thought. Let us say somebody we feel has injured us and they deserve to be punished. Now, when we look at that, there is an opportunity now to free ourselves of that past. If we go towards Bhagavan, if we go towards the divinity in us, the divinity does not have the content of like and dislike. Therefore, if we can look at that thought without like and dislike arising, that thought drops off. The whole past, all the karmas drop off in witnessing. But what Bhagavan is suggesting here, don't stop there, because the ego can still remain. The doubter can still remain and claim credit. I am a witness, all these people are not witnesses. Because the Sarvasakshi, the witnessing consciousness, does not differentiate itself between itself and the others. Now, what Bhagavan says as Hridayam is the source of both the witness of the objects and the witness of the light. When we take like that, there is a lot of clarity as to why we should finish off with the source of the I. Yar witness, who is the witness of that object? Who is the witness of Akasha? I. Who am I? Who am I still remains. That is why, as far as we are sadhakas in self-inquiry, what is Hridayam? Hridayam is the source of the I thought. As far as we are sadhakas in self-inquiry, the Hridayam is the place from which the first I, whether Ishvara's I or individual's I, we are not going to question. The I thought rises from the Hridayam. So, who am I will not stop till that first I is taken to the source. So, that is what we saw, that as far as the perspective of sadhana is concerned, better to take the Hridayam as the source of the I thought. Now, what happens to the physical? Does the Spurana appear here? 100% it will appear. That now, when the mind is in a disturbed state or in a state which is having a lot of movements, just like breath is held as a support, is given as a support to quieten it, come to bring it to Laya and then start self-inquiry, one can have the Hridaya Lakshya to quieten the mind. Because this is Stula. This Gavana is Stula. It will have a strong ability to control thoughts. So when you observe the right side, the strong disturbances will go away. And once it is quiet, you can ask who is observing the right side. I am observing one. So I go to the source of the I thought. So these are the only two references, though for the sake of investigation, we have seen Hridayam is practically the source of everything. We reduce it to two, the physical right hand side of the chest for Dhyana Lakshya, for having as a support just like breath. And really speaking, Hridayam is the source of the I thought. Now, in talk 401, Bhagavan is asked, have people felt this Purana on the right side of your chest? Bhagavan says, yes. Vishwanatha Swami and Narayana Reddy are supposed to have been two of the devotees who have kept their hand on the right side of the chest and felt the tap, 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 I. Now, therefore, is that the Spurana? Is that the Spurana as you go in? From here, the pulsation is taken to the source of the I. Is that the Spurana? What we will do, we will sit for Atmacharam. We will continue in the next week. We will start Atmacharam of 15 minutes from now. Probably I could have taken for 5 more minutes, but we will split this into the next week. I would like you all to go through this thoroughly, the Ekashloki, and have a revision of whatever we have written about the witnessing, because the three together gives us the importance of Atmacharam, and it makes sadhana very clear. Why are we not able to let go of thoughts? That becomes clear from verse number 6. Verse number 6 says, you are not merely observing thought. You like some thoughts. You hate some thoughts. Therefore, you are controlled by thoughts. Whereas, can you be a witness? Manade ariya mudiyama. Devanya yar manam teruvan. En manam aviyam ennal arivadume. Aviyam, as the Sukshma Swarupa, I am able to witness my mind. Devanniyahume arkum surdiyal ekamam devane. The one singular witnessing consciousness, that is you, says the Guru. Now, what do we pick up from that for our sadhana? That we are not merely observing thought, we are running after certain thoughts because of our like and dislike. Can we look dispassionately? Then verse number 6 is helpful in letting go of thoughts. What happens when there is no like or dislike? When the akarshana and the push is not there, they just drop away. There is a transcending of that plane. The thoughts just drop away. How is that sadhaka able to ask the question? I am witnessing thoughts, I am able to witness akasha. Because when you witness thoughts, the thoughts drop away. When you have like or dislike towards thoughts, the thoughts continue. Now, that was the 6th verse contribution. The 7th verse contribution was that there can be a state where the thoughts are not there at all, but you are seeing a blank. Now, that blank, initially because of lack of parichaya, may be associated with some kind of fear from the ego, which is hesitating to go there. Actually, the blank and the screen are you only. So, Bhagavan says to Chadwick that practice it again and again. Separate yourself from the association with the body and associate with the Chidakasha. Because of your lack of association with Chidakasha, fear is there. Keep practicing, that will go away. Those are the two major benefits we received from those two verses. But from here on, we are going to stick to Bhagavan's teachings. That is Kevalam Brahma Matram Aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. That's what we are going to stick. So I would like you to go through whatever we have written over the 3 weeks in verse number 6, verse number 7, and verse number 8. Then give some focus to verse number 8. So if you have anything to question, we can discuss that in the next session. Then verse number 9 and verse 10 can follow. We will sit in Atma Charan for 15 minutes. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Bhagavan, shining as the self in all beings. By the abundant grace of Bhagavan, we have been able to sit for the practice of self-inquiry, and prior to that the manana on self-inquiry. Nanda Kumarji often reminds us that Bhagavan comes to us as a self-inquiry itself. And Jnana Malaye Nadandu Varave Kanden, says Sadhu Swami. What is Jnana Malay? Jnana is come to us as self-inquiry. It is the Jnana Vicharam Bhagavan says. So that is by the grace of Bhagavan. And Nanda Kumarji pointed out to us the difference between the Sakshi Bhava and the natural abidance in the self. Because this is probably one of the stages in every kind of vichara, even in traditional vichara, because if you go to the path of negation, I am not the body, I am not the... So one by one, when things are eliminated also, even in the traditional method, even if you don't go for other methods of witnessing, it is very much there that there is a stage of the Sakshi Bhava. Because who is aware of all this? That question will come, not necessarily, in some form or the other it will come. And who is the Sakshi to this, to this negation? Who has been saying that this is the body is not I, or the mind is not I, or the intellect, breath is not I, intellect is not I? Who has been saying? So, Bhagavan takes us to this in Upadesha Saram. So he says that Jnana Varjita. When he says Jnana Varjita, that means that duality is not there. There cannot be awareness of something. So the Sakshi Bhava cannot be the fullness, because if there is Jnana of something, and this can manifest during the abhyasa of self-inquiry in a subtle way, that when one comes out, see, when one comes out of the experience of abidance, because Bhagavan says in Ramana Gita, during abhyasa also same state is experienced. He says in the path of self-inquiry, the difference between self-awareness, total self-awareness or Sthita Prajna, and abhyasa is that it comes and goes. It's called upasana, he says. The upasana is like, in that stage you come and go. So when we come out, what happens? If we go to that state and come out, when we are outside, the bhava of having been a sakshi to the state comes. I had gone there and I have come out. So very often the seeker will feel that sometimes a question came up. One of the devotees was telling me that I feel as if I am two people. One who is that silence and one who is this entity. Because I come out of that. I feel as if I am two people. But during one of our workshops in Tiruvannamalai, when this question had come of how to sustain the silence, how to remain there, one of the answers which came up was that we think that we are going into that and coming out of that. When I think I am going into that and coming out of that, then I become the experiencer or sakshi even of that state, even of that akasha, of that tattva. But when one recognizes that actually one is not going into that, one is only coming out of it. That is natural. That is the nature. It is not as if one holds that and comes out. One ceases to be in the natural state, and then by some grace one gets back to the natural state. Then this thought of holding that the thought that I am experiencing that, even that has to go, and in vichara it will automatically come. That question will come. Who is it who is coming in and going out? Who is it who is having this bhava of going in and coming out? Or during the practice, if one has practiced and somehow reached the point of being a sakshi, then that question will come in vichara as to who is the sakshi, who is witnessing it. And that's why Bhagavan says jnana varjita ajnana hina chit also, of course, because there is no one not to witness also. Does not mean that in the absence of the witnessing bhava, there is shunya. So that's why Bhagavan says ajnana hina chit. And it's a very important point, because one can get lost over there. As Nandakumarji says, one can get lost over there. The subtler points are very beautifully addressed by self-inquiry. And sometimes, as I shared last time also, I feel that even without giving us the sakshi bhava, as a conscious bhava of witnessing thoughts, in self-inquiry, actually, when one goes to the I thought, because the I thought is the sakshi of all the waking and dream experiences, Bhagavan says, hold on to the I thought, and then, but then don't stop there. So holding on to the I thought becomes the point of holding on to the sakshi without saying it's sakshi. Bhagavan doesn't say it is a sakshi, but he says go to the I thought, which is the source of all thoughts. Really speaking, it is a sakshi of all thoughts. How is it a source of all thoughts? Only by being a sakshi, because otherwise, sometimes I wonder, it is not as if the thought arises from the I, but the thought becomes mine by this I being a sakshi to it. Because I countenance the presence of a thought through my attention, the thought exists for me. So, actually, the entire panorama is dependent on this fact that I feel I am a sakshi to something. This entire panorama of thought. So Bhagavan takes it like that, to the source on which they are dependent, meaning they are dependent only on my attention as a sakshi. So he says, question then, who am I? So he doesn't leave us there, as Nandakumarji often points out to us, that Bhagavan takes us further from there, to dive in along with that, to dive in further if it is whence am I also, and other if it is who am I, automatically it will dissolve. The question itself will, Bhagavan says, make the I thought dissolve, like the Pinai Shodum Tadi, like that, like the stick used to stir the funeral pyre, it will dissolve itself in its own question, if it is who am I and whence am I. And Bhagavan here is saying, he has said, I think in the Tamil verse it is probably a little clearer, the holding of the diving, holding the breath along with the breath. That means actually in the Tamil, when I heard it today, it is dive holding the breath. It doesn't say just by holding the breath. Whereas probably there could be that mild ambiguity in the Sanskrit, Bhagavan's Sanskrit, where he says, Va, Chinvata, Majjata, Va, Pavala Charala Rodhat. So it leaves slight room for interpretation. Whereas in the Tamil, it is very, very clear, because he has not said this. He says, dive holding the breath. So it is very clear that the diving part is important. And the breath is a support. It's very, very clear. So we can go back to the Sanskrit with the help of the Tamil also, Bhagavan's Tamil verse. Sometimes, because later, I think Tamil must have come later, if I am right. And that's how Bhagavan
says, Sadhuvam Swamigal says, Bhagavan
clarifies in the Tamil. Sometimes he does it in later works, like in sometimes the Malayalam Upadesha Saram is wider than the earlier versions, because it has certain clarifications, so it is quite possible. Anyway, what to say of Bhagavan's grace, which has brought us all here. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.